Hi everyone, welcome to Manzoor Academy Conversation Package Lesson 4. Now you remember in the first lesson we looked at greetings and then we started talking about appearances, and of course last class we looked at city life. Today we are going to talk about housing. Housing in the sense that how you can describe someone's house. The first question that comes to mind is, where do you live? What kind of house do you live in? What does your dream house look like? Now, remember, when we talk about house and housing in English, the first thing that you need to understand is that house is a physical structure. Remember, when you say I'm going home, it means I'm going where I live. It could be an apartment, it could be a flat, it could be a suburban house, it could be a mansion. There are different kinds of physical structures that we have that we call a house. For instance, you have something that we call a flat. Now, a flat is what the British call an apartment. Remember that. So for example, you would say, I live in a small flat on the 38th floor of a condo, right? What about you? Where do you live? You can say, I live on the 10th floor of a beautiful condo in the center of the city. You see, when we are talking about apartments, the apartments, what the Americans say as an apartment, the British call it flat, is basically a place inside a huge condominium. Condominium, condo. Television, TV. Refrigerator, fridge. These are shortened versions of the same word. So for example, if you have a word like refrigerator, the smaller version is fridge. Or if you have a word like television, the smaller version is TV. And so when you have a word like condominium, the smaller version is condo. So I live in a small flat on the 38th floor of a condo. That's a flat, that's an apartment. But we also have a bungalow. Now, bungalow is a different story. Bungalow is like a villa house, only one story, only one floor. And it's not very luxurious. So it's not a villa, right? It's something, quite primitive, not that luxurious, all right? And it's a one-story house. So for example, you can say, I live in a one-story bungalow house in the suburbs, right? Or in the suburban areas or in the outskirts. Usually the bungalows are around the city. But then you have cottage house. Cottage is a wooden house that is not in the city. That is basically out of the city. It's in the jungle. It's in the forest. It's a wooden house. We call that a cottage house. A cottage. So a cottage is basically a wooden house in the countryside. So you can say I live in a small wooden cottage house. Wooden cottage house in the countryside. Suburban house, I live in a huge suburban house in the suburbs, in the outskirts of the city. Suburban house is a duplex house. So it has 2 floors. Usually American houses are suburban house. That kind of style of housing is very common in the United States. So we call them suburban house. And of course, David Beckham doesn't live in a flat or a bungalow or a cottage or a suburban house. He lives in a mansion. Mr. Donald J. Trump, his house is in Florida. It's called Mar-a-Lago, and it's a huge mansion. 25 bedrooms, a heliport for the helicopter, a golf course for playing golf, different stables for the horses. That is called a mansion. It's a huge, huge, luxurious house. We call that a mansion. I would love to buy a mansion in Malibu, Los Angeles, right? So that's my dream house. What is your dream house? My dream house is a huge mansion in Bavaria, in Germany. My dream house is a beautiful mansion in the north of Iran, near the Caspian Sea. My dream mansion is my dream house is a huge mansion in Sydney, Australia, in Tokyo, in Kuala Lumpur, in Dubai, all over the world, right? So that's what we call a mansion. And then you can say, I live in a luxurious, means very expensive. I live in a luxurious mansion in the Bay of Malibu, near the sea. Or you could say a terraced house. Now, terraced houses are houses that are connected to each other, right? Usually there are 3 or 4 floors. This kind of system of housing is very common in Italy, in the UK, right? So you would say I live on the 2nd floor of a beautiful terraced house in London with a small balcony overlooking the city. Overlooking the city means my balcony has a beautiful view of the city. So now I want to describe my house in more details, right? Now, always when students want to describe their house, the problem that they have is that they don't know where to start. There is no specific structure. You want to describe your house, you say, my house is big, nice, okay, 2-bedroom. This is not very effective, is it? It's much better that when you want to describe your house, you have a skeleton, you have an outline. That outline can allow your mind to map out your speech, to have a plan for your speech, which is very important for an effective way of communication. So, first things first, I want to describe my house. What are my headlines? Location, neighborhood, neighbor, living room, kitchen, bedrooms, indoor facilities, outdoor facilities, and my overall impression. That is a good skeleton. You start talking about the location of your house, then the neighborhood, then your neighbors, then you talk about the living room, the sofa, the armchair, the bookshelf, everything, right? And then you describe the kitchen, the bedrooms, then you talk about the facilities in your house or out of your house, like the gym, the swimming pool, the tennis court. And finally, you talk about your overall impression, whether you like living there or not. Smart, huh? Let's look at the structure. You can start your speech by saying, well, I live on the 2nd floor of a beautiful terraced house. You can say, I live on the 12 ND? No, TH. 12. Very good. I live on the 12th floor of a beautiful condominium, right? Remember, condominium is this huge tower, right? Like 30 floors, 40 floors. And then you live in one of the apartments. I live in a flat. I live in a flat on the 12th floor of a beautiful condominium. Nice, eh? I live in a Small flat on the 12th floor of a beautiful condominium. Wow, I live in a huge flat. I live in a huge apartment. I live in a beautiful apartment on the 38th floor of a condominium. So you can see how you can play with the structures. That simulation English is very important for an intelligence-based learning scheme. All right, so let's go to the neighborhood, shall we? We live in a very noisy, crowded neighborhood in the city. Perfect. You can say we live in a very quiet and well kept. Remember last class I told you about well kept means very clean, very, nice and tidy neighborhood in the city. Perfect. Neighbors. We have very nosy neighbors. Nosy neighbors means always they are looking into your house. What are you doing? Where are you going? It's crazy, crazy, nosy. Ugh. Noisy means they're very noisy. And naughty means they're very, very naughty. So we have very nosy, noisy, and naughty neighbors in our condo. Let's talk about the living room. Before we talk about the living room, remember, neighbor is the person who lives next to you. Neighborhood is the area where you live. They're very different. So, living room. There is a set of black leather furniture with a 6-seat dining table inside the living room. And the living room is very spacious or very cozy, or you can say very comfortable, right? These are key adjectives that you can use to describe the living room. So inside the living room, there's a set of black leather. Sometimes your watch is made of leather, your belt is made of leather. Leather furniture with a 6-seat dining table. 6-seat. When you say seat, it's double E. This blood vessel should come out like seat. It's not sit, it's seat. Like there's a lot of stress. 6-seat dining table. There's a set of black leather furniture with a 6-seat dining table. That's the living room. You can talk about a fireplace. You can talk about a bookshelf. You can talk about paintings on the wall. You can talk about a carpet, whatever you wish. Now let's go to the kitchen. Kitchen is smart. For the kitchen, you would say we have an open kitchen that is very well lighted and so cozy. Cozy means very comfortable. Very comfortable. Remember that. Well lighted means light is coming in really well. So it's very well lighted. There's a small kitchen that is too dark, dingy, and cramped. Means I cannot breathe. It's so cramped. So sometimes your kitchen is very cramped and dingy and dark. Sometimes your kitchen is very wide open, spacious, and very well lighted. Depends on your kitchen. You just change the words describing your kitchen. Bedrooms. I share my bedroom with my wife, and inside there's a king size bed. You can talk about other things in your bedroom that, of course, are not private. Then you can talk about indoor facilities. For example, we also have 2 air conditioners and a beautiful balcony, right? Some houses have a balcony, some houses don't have a balcony, right? Outdoor facilities. Outside, there's a huge swimming pool and a gym for exercise. So there's a gym to exercise. Fantastic. Overall impression. Overall impression means, do you like living in your house or you don't like living in your house? Overall, I have been living in this house for 2 years and I love it. Or you can say the opposite. Honestly,